So once again, welcome to the Unshakable Foundation meeting of Cocaine Anonymous. This is a main share meeting, and today it's with great pleasure and much gratitude that we welcome Lynn B, who's come to share for up to 40 minutes on the topic, Rarely Have We Seen a Person Fail, after which we'll open up for the Q&A portion of the meeting. So with that, Lynn, it's over to you. Thank you so much.
There we go. Thank you so much. My name is Lynn and I am an alcoholic. Thank you, Young, for inviting me to share with all of you. It's an interesting coincidence at my home group this morning. The topic was on the fifth tradition. And the speaker was telling us that God created cocaine for us so we could drink more. And here I am now at a meeting of Cocaine Anonymous, and I love cocaine. I've also heard that any alcoholic with $1,000 in their pocket will be doing cocaine. The idea of just being up all night long. So in any case, I have a home group, Back Porch International. We meet every day. I attend twice a week. I am a member of the steering committee. I have a sponsor, Cheryl. I am current with my sponsor. She knows she's sponsoring me, and I never ever hesitate to call her with a 10-step when I'm disturbed or unsure or maybe a little bitty resentment. And I never want to be so proud that I don't want my sponsor or any one of you to know that I can still be unreasonably demanding and I can still be selfish and at times delusional. My sobriety date is June 22nd, 1982. So I am proof that with the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, with a 12-step program, that we can be sober at least for 42 years. And so this is a program that works. But I think that having an unshakable foundation really, really helps along the way when the low spot and trials ahead come upon us, that maybe the windows will shake a little bit, but that foundation is not going anywhere. I will be spiritually strong enough to get through everything. I've chosen Rarely Have We Seen a Person Fail because it goes hand in hand with the unshakable foundation. So in Alcoholics Anonymous, we read a portion of chapter 5, how it works. And it starts with, rarely have we seen a person fail. So the odds that all of us here today stay sober, stay clean for the rest of our lives are extremely high. Rarely have we seen a person fail. To those who have thoroughly followed the path, the key word to me is thoroughly. It means precise, exact, and following to the end. And it's my responsibility. Nobody can work that program thoroughly for me. It's my job. In the second foreword in the big book, it is mentioned permanent sobriety. It says, it also indicated that strenuous, that means energetic, forceful, strenuous work, one alcoholic addict with another was vital to permanent recovery. Vital means life-giving, permanent recovery. Bill, Dr. Bob, Bill Dodson, the third man on the bed, all three achieved permanent sobriety. I'm not there yet, but 42 years, I'm on my way. This is available to every one of us. Of course, if you drink again, use drugs again, you come back, and we will love you right through this. But should you want to be clean and sober, we can show you how to have that unshakable foundation. We do it one day at a time. We don't think about, oh my goodness, how can I possibly do New Year's without a couple of lines and a few drinks. No, no. We think just about today, but it doesn't mean that we only have 24 hours to offer you. Permanent and unshakable. And so what does it mean to me, my friend, to be an alcoholic who's been sober 42 years? If you're new, you might think this is like a turnip that just fell off the truck. How dumb can she be? That book has got 164 pages. What is she doing here? Well, we just read about strenuous work, one alcoholic with another. So I need to hang out with the fellowship. That is where I can find people to strenuously work with. This is where I can go to big book studies, to step studies. This is where I can find love, entertainment, laughter, a joyous intimacy with friends, camaraderie. I mean, you fire up my imagination, especially online. We have access to the best, the very top quality, unshakable kind of sobriety, cleanliness all over the world. So I just absolutely love my life in the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. And if I were to leave you, I would not find anybody to work strenuously with. And believe me, if I'm on my own, you don't know what I have. So I need to stay with you. And it says that an alcoholic, drug addict, has a craving. Once I put alcohol in my body, it creates a craving that no human resource can stop, that allergy. And there is no evidence today in 2024 in science, in medicine, with your own experiences that somehow in the last 42 years, that strange phenomenon of craving fixed itself. No evidence. So what it means to me today, I am absolutely convinced, should I pick up a drink tomorrow, I'm going to have 10 or 12. And I do have $1,000 and I'm going to do a few lines. that's just how I roll. And not only is there that physical aspect of my disease, but there is also the mental aspect. Otherwise, all I have to do is not pick up the friggin' drink. But I get obsessed with it. Obsessed. And there is a difference between thinking about drinking and being obsessed with drinking. And we hear that amongst ourselves. You know what? I was thinking about drinking this morning. I don't know what came of me. And we call somebody, we go to a meeting and nothing to it. But an obsession is a thought that supersedes all others. If I'm obsessed with drinking, I will pick it up. If I just think about it, I have a chance, but not if I'm obsessed with it. And there is no evidence in science, in medicine, or with your own experience when you go out and try it, that should I leave the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous today, should I stop treating my alcoholism with the steps every single day? All we have is a daily reprieve, and a reprieve is a stay of execution. I turned into a pumpkin last night at midnight, and I'm going to be a pumpkin again tonight. Tomorrow, I cannot have a full stomach on the food I ate yesterday. I look at my spirituality the same way because I do not want to risk it. So there is no evidence. Should I leave you? Should I let dust gathering on my big book that in a year or two, I wouldn't be somewhere visiting London. It's so gorgeous, the big wheel. Oh, it's gorgeous that I wouldn't end up at a pub to get the delicious French fries and the fish and chips you make the best, that I wouldn't have a glass of beer with this. There is no evidence of that. And so that is why, my friends, that unshakable foundation, I live my life in the middle of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I keep my heart, my mind in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous every single day. And I'll tell you something else. The first time I drank, I was 13. I bought 6 beers to go to a little party. And before I was halfway through the first beer, all my insecurities went away. Up to that point, I was shy. I didn't belong. I was not smart enough, not pretty enough. I was detestable. I could not make friends. I would stand in a corner and watch the little girls play. I was an outsider. A half a beer, my friend fixed it. You think I was not prepared to give everything to watch the destruction of my life, to get that ease and comfort, that social lubricant? I continued to drink my beers. I blacked out. I went to get my last beer. They told me, Susan, drink my beer. I found Susan and I slapped her in the face. This is not social drinking. That is the way I drank at the gate. And my double life, like the big book talks about, began for me that night. Because when I came home, I never told my mom what had happened. Mom, I've always been so uncomfortable in my skin. I had a half a beer. It was like paradise, Mom. Warm and comfortable in my gut. I played with the little girls. Then, Mom, it's so strange. I hardly remember the evening. Then I slapped a girl in the face, Mom. I am so remorseful. I'm confused. I don't understand what happened. Now I'm afraid Susan's going to be mad at me. But you know, Mom, I think I'd like to do it again. No, I never said anything until I came to Alcoholics Anonymous all those years later. And you shared with me your shame, your embarrassment, your regrets, the way that you drank. And then I felt like I was one of you. I was not that oddball. It always seemed to me I was the worst. I drank so much and it never got any better. So there is no evidence anywhere that tomorrow would be any different. It'd be the same thing again. That's the way I drink. And so that's what it means to me, my friend, to be an alcoholic today, all those years later. I'm as much of an alcoholic as I was way back then. And I was in Quebec, Canada. By the time I was 24 years old, I had a license to practice law, the second youngest in law school. I can have ambition. I can achieve goals. I love to read. I love to study. I love taking those tests. But you know, I'm a bar drinker. And you know what that means. And so I cheated on all those boyfriends. And I had a little something with one of my bosses in the law firm where I work. And Quebec City is small. My reputation was starting to just envelop me. So I left for San Diego and I took my reputation with me, and I'm bar drinking here too. And you know, I come home at 3 o'clock in the morning and the bars close at 1 o'clock. You had to start getting really creative to have good explanation of what you're doing the last 2 hours. I was not knitting booties. And so that boyfriend that I found here in San Diego, I'm living with him. He's supporting me financially. I had no more money. I was an illegal alien. I was estranged from my family. The only people who tolerated me were his friends. I was emotionally unemployable. You think I have every reason to only have 2 drinks today and not go back to the bar. Unlike some of you, I never ever wanted to stop drinking because to live without drinking was inconceivable to me because I was so uncomfortable in my skin. I was drunk before you got to my house. I was drunk before I got to yours. I was drinking in the car on my way to the bar. That's the way I lived. And so the big book, I found 23 relapse warnings in it. 23. And so a great desire, in my case, not to stop, but to control it, was not good enough. Great necessity will not work. Willpower will not work. The memory of the horrific consequences of 2 days ago when he said, you go back to the bar, you cheat on me, I'm going to kick you out. That memory will fail me because of the strange mental blank spot. And it talks about a code of moral, a great philosophy of life. That's not going to be good enough. Fear sobered Bill up a bit. And on our Armistice Day, he drank again. So my fear of what will happen to me if I drink is not going to be good enough either. I need a spiritual answer. And so that day, I so wanted to have only 2 drinks. And I'm waking up shaky. And my throat is parched. Today I'm having just 2 drinks at 4 o'clock, just 2. Now it's 7:30 in the morning. 4 o'clock I have my 2 drinks. Now it's 8:15. I have to wait until 4. And just the thought of it, I start to salivate. Now it's 11 o'clock. Well, I'm starting to change my mind. And that's the mental aspect. That's the insanity of that illness. You know what? I'll have one now and one at 4 o'clock. Now I failed hundreds of times, but today's gonna be different. And of course, he comes home, I'm drunk, I'm back to the bar, and he kicks me out. And so I ended up sleeping in the sleeping bag on the room of a floor I was renting. I lived like an animal for 3 or 4 months. My clothes were on the floor. And on June 21st, 1982, what happened that morning is no matter how much I drank that weekend, it didn't work. I was sober from the neck up. And so I called Alcoholics Anonymous and he said, you want to stop drinking? I said, no, no, no. I just want to be able to have 5 or 6 and then stop. It's after that I get in all this trouble. And he said, you're not ready for us. And in the next couple of hours or so, what I heard was, Lynn, you're done with drinking. There is nothing left in this for you. I called back. The lady calls me and she said, would you like to go somewhere? I said, oh, yes, I'm a traveler. I love going places. I assumed they would take me to the La Costa Resort. I could use the mud bath, the massages. I was tired and I eagerly accepted. And she and her husband picked me up and they took me to detox downtown with the winos. So I was disappointed, but I stayed. And they gave me the 20 questions. And I thought, well, I've taken tests that were much more difficult than this. This is going to be easy. And indeed, my friends, I aced it. I got 17 right the first time I took it. He said, you're an alcoholic. I said, oh. And he said, what's so funny or happy about that? And I said, finally, someone is telling me what is wrong with me. And being a lady, a woman bar drinker, you know, the 12 and 12 talks about a fallen woman. And I was doing I was speaking on the topic recently, and I was looking at that. What's a fallen woman anyway? And so I picked up the dictionary, and it's a woman who has sexual relations before marriage. I thought, oh, wow, this is a lightweight. This is a little outdated. And so I was looking for a word that could describe what I was doing out there. And I found one that I didn't know about, and it's called floozy. Isn't that a funny word? And a floozy is a woman who has had several sexual partners. Okay, way past fallen woman, right into the floozy department. So this is where my alcoholism took me. And now they're telling me about a spiritual solution. Oh no, I'm hearing the God word. Oh my goodness, I was so disappointed, but I figured I will ignore them like orange cones on a parking lot. You know, like this, like when I learned to ride a motorcycle, you just go like around the cones. But here it's everywhere. The word God is everywhere. If you are new and you have prejudices with this, no worries, no worries. Bill says the word God, it's just the word. If I say the word butterfly, I want you to know I'm talking about butterflies, not any particular butterfly at all, any kind of butterfly. So God is just the word, but I had prejudices because I was raised in religion. I've always believed in a higher power, always, never doubted it for a second. But it was so mean and so far away. The idea of a personal relationship was so foreign to me, and I was just afraid. And so at a meeting, I was sober a few months, and there was a lady who said that God to her was like George Burns in the movie Oh God. You got to watch it if you haven't. It's like a 40-year-old movie. And George Burns has got his suspenders and his sneakers and a little hat. And John Denver is asking him, and he said, if you're God, why do you dress like this? Why do you talk like that? And George said, well, I can wear anything I want, any kind of shoes I want. I can talk any way I want, depending on who I am talking to, so they understand what I'm saying. Wow. To my recollection, my friends, this was the first time in my life that somebody put a smile there rather than a scowl. And so if you are new, I want to invite you to use your critical thinking, whether you're agnostic, atheist, any kind of prejudice. You may want to look at the second step in the 12 and 12. It mentions 5 categories of different prejudices: the belligerent one, the defiant one, the one who had uh, to faith and then lost it. And that might help you like it helped me. And I read all sorts of books. And you know, one time at a meeting, there was this lady who was from the same religion as mine back then, and she had a loving God. Now, what? I had a pernicious one. She had a loving one out of the same book. So I personally decided that it depends on who, which human being taught me back then, their own interpretation. And that's when I became free to do the search myself and to land in a place where I'm comfortable. Because the big book is clear. 23 relapse warnings telling me, Lynn, your human resources will fail. The 5th step in the 12 and 12, old timers who drink again because of carrying their load of resentments and defects alone. And so with all this sobriety that I have, should I stop going to my sponsor to admit a mistake, to go back to my higher power for a 6 and 7 to make my amends? I am at risk of drinking again. There is nothing in our literature that suggests that if you have done 500 steps on anger, now from now on, if you're angry, you don't need to do anything anymore. You will be able to just get rid of it all by yourself. It's not there. Sometimes I can. A judgment, I can't believe he said that at the meeting. What? Oh my goodness, look at that. I have a judgment. Oh, please, God, take this away from me. And then I go on and it's gone. But if the next day I'm still ruminating on this, I better call my sponsor because there is no evidence that someday I'm going to be able to do this all by myself. In fact, the 10th step is for me to watch during the day. When I leave the world of the spirit, I don't even watch news because it's so disturbing to me. So I have to create that space, stay in the world of the spirit. But when my mind wants to go and pick on something, then I need to treat that. To me, this is the most difficult discipline of our 12-step program, to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. And as those things crop up, bring it back go to God, talk to somebody. It's to bring it back. Maybe 50 times I've had a situation with a sponsee, and I don't know what she will do, but I feel bad for her, and I don't know how to address it with her, and I'm a little bit confused. And I talked to my sponsor, and I'm going to meet with her this afternoon, and I've already said my prayer this morning to show me the way of patience, tolerance, kindness, and love. So when I address that with her, I really come from my heart, which it is, but I know she will not like what I have to say. You know, I am convinced with our husbands and our partners, you leave him, you love him, or you leave him. There is not a third option about changing him. How arrogant, how delusional to think that I could convince someone to change themselves to accommodate me. I still have defects, and I have wanted to change, to grow, to be the best thing I can be. I've been doing this for a long time, and some of them are still there. And so this is me wanting to do it, and it's still a long, long time. So the idea, I don't like the defects in my husband, and somehow he should just do it differently. And something else I have come to believe, my friend, is that when I don't like something that you say or do, it's not necessarily a mistake you're making. It's just not according to my preferences. I have never ever encouraged anybody to do something I don't like. Like I know what's best for them. Well, the 11th step in the 12 and 12 tells us we think we know what God's will is for other people. And we pray for those things for them. And it's a, good intention, but it's a little bit presumptuous and conceited. And so this is a little bit of the conversation I'll be having. And I've had to prepare myself. So the words I will be able to share with her so she can understand me, like George Burns in that movie, to be inspired, to have this intuition. And she knows how much I love her and that I only want her to be happy. But this is what I'm talking about during the day. What's on my calendar today? Is there anything with a selfish motives in there? And I look, no. Today, every single activity that I have on my calendar is for me to offer something. It's for me to be of maximum service to the people about me. And that includes my husband and the neighbors and everyone who might call that I don't expect to hear from. To be of maximum service, to be a good Samaritan every day. I mean, this is a tall order, a very tall order, if we want to have that unshakable foundation, permanent for life. I hear at meeting often, I'm sober by the grace of God. Gee, what a sweet deal. I have to work for mine. And if we pay attention to the vocabulary in the big book, God will come if we want him enough. God could and would if he were soft. In the morning, I ask to show me the way of patience, tolerance, kindness, and love. I ask, this is our prayer life. We ask for my thinking to be divorced from selfish, dishonest motives and self-pity. And so I put myself there, and then my higher power with the grace can come and help me and keep that obsession at bay. For me, it's very much inside this, in the appendix, the unsuspected inner resource, the idea of God in each man, woman, and child. I don't know how familiar you are with the big book, but what I'm sharing with you tonight, that's where that's coming from. And it's pretty much the exact words. Words are so very, very important. I don't want to cheat the seriousness, the precision of the words that are used to make sure I'm not wiggling out to find an easier, softer way. And so I love the nearness and the immediacy of the solution in our 12-step program. I don't have to wait to see a pastor, a rabbi on Sunday, or the therapist next week. I can still talk to them if I want to, but right here, right now, this second, I can go inside. And God, please help me zip it. And I let the day pass and I don't even respond to it. Or sometimes I feel like begging my husband, Linda. So this is immediate, and it saves a possible argument, a possible uncomfortable hour. It can be that easy. And so that unshakable, I don't know how I can present it to convince you that none of us here today has to drink again or pick up anything again if we don't want to. But it requires a tremendous amount of attention. And if you do not have a sponsor, I could not do it without my sponsor. Sponsorship to me is very intuitive. Whether a sponsor calls me or I call my sponsor, there is a certain level of trust, of intuition that occurs that may not happen in any other relationship. And what we mean by intuition, and I'll read that to you if you don't mind. Einstein, when we talk about treating our mind, right? Einstein said, the intellect has little to do on the road to discovery. There comes a leap in consciousness. Call it intuition or what you will. And the solution comes to you and you don't know how or why. This is Lynn here with her little limited mind. And it's telling me if I want to solve a problem, I can go just so far with the 5 senses. But I need the 6th sense, the intuition that comes, that's beyond my intellect. And I believe that if I am spiritually fit, and I know my sponsor is, and we're talking, we are in that intuitive space right here. I would probably not know an hour before I get the call what I would say if someone brought me this problem. I get the call and somehow I know what to say. And neither one of us, Lynn, how could you come up with something like this? I don't know. It just came. And so I beg you not to be afraid to have a sponsor. You have someone who loves you no matter what, someone who will take your calls wherever they are in the world, someone who loves you, who cares for you, who only wants for you to have a happy, joyful, clean, and sober life, someone that you can trust, someone who has knowledge of the literature, and you start reading the literature with your sponsor because that's where the solution is. I am humbled when I talk about the big book, the 12 and 12, and the program, because I can never say it as well as it is said in our literature. And sometimes at meeting, I hear things that make me cringe. One time I heard an old timer say, she was sober 25 years or so. She said, oh, you don't have to worry about that 4th step. I did mine when I was 5 years sober and I'm still sober. This is when I said, please, dear God, take that away from me. In the big book, the warning on the 3rd step, it says, the effect, wonderful effect of the 3rd step is not permanent. It needs to be followed at once. Next, at once, by the 4th step, because the number 1 killer, the resentment, is just waiting around the corner. And the 9th step, I think there are 3 or 4 mentions of warnings, fear of creditors. If we don't change that sexual behavior, we're likely to drink again if we are not regretful. Fear of predator will get us to drink, to use. And so there is nothing, nowhere in the big book that it suggests that we should take our time and to do when we're ready. In the fifth step, it says, we waste no time. The sixth step starts with returning home. At the end of the seventh step, more action is needed. And so I am on alert. I am extremely vigilant with that gift of sobriety. And by the way, I have never wanted to stop drinking. Never. When I called Alcoholics Anonymous June 21st, 1982, I was asked, "You want to stop drinking?" And I said, no, no, no. I just want to learn how to have 5 or 6. It's after that I get in all this trouble. And that they took me to detox, and that obsession to drink was removed by the next day. We use the word miracles a lot in our meetings. I think too much. My opinion, a miracle is something that cannot be explained by science. So when I hear, oh, I got a job, what a miracle. Well, if I send out 50 resumes, I'm probably going to catch something. That's easily explainable. Oh, I got a house. Well, I've been working for 30 years, saving my money, and now I can make a down payment on a house. That's explainable. But when you talk about an obsession with drinking, with drugging, mine, I was obsessed for 14 years. The last year and a half, all day, every day. I picked myself up from that floor and I drink and I go to the bar, pick up sometimes something other than drinks, come back to my floor, pass out, drink again, like that for a year and a half. And on June 22nd, that obsession was removed. There is no way to explain that by science. They couldn't do it in 1939 when they wrote the big book, and they cannot explain it today either. What happened to my mind? I had no relationship with a higher power whatsoever. I did not pray for it, did not imagine it, had not gone to an AA meeting yet. This was removed. So this is what this idea of a higher power is. It has no dogma. It's just something happened to me that I did not cause or create. And that's that unsuspected inner vessels that I go to in the morning, throughout the day, and at night. And Bill talks about the stream of life. So we get this wonderful gift. We're sober, we're clean. What are we going to do with that gift? We are to be good Samaritan every day, be of maximum service to the people about us. And he talks about adding to the stream of life. So when I read this, I'm thinking about a stream and I am adding to it. After his death, they found a book by Tagore, the Indian poet. And I don't know if that's where Bill got the idea of the stream of life, but Tagore wrote a poem about the stream of life. And I don't care if that's where Bill took it or not. If you will allow me, I will end with this. The stream of life. The strange stream of life that runs through my veins, night and day, runs through the world and dances in rhythmic measures. It is the same life that shoots in joy through the dust of the earth in numberless blades of grass and breaks into tumultuous waves of leaves and flowers. It is the same life that is rocked in the ocean cradle of birth and of death, in ebb and in flow. I feel my limbs are made glorious by the touch of this world of life. And my pride is from the life throb of ages dancing in my blood this moment. Thank you so much for listening.
You're on mute then, 1 sec.
I muted myself. Thank you, Lynn, an alcoholic. Well, I'll be honest with you, the first 25 years of my sobriety, I lived alone. And so I did things my way. My learning curve was flat. And my first marriage, I was not willing to make any changes necessary. It's when I met my Swiss man, when I lived in Switzerland, I fell in love so hard. And he's the one, the first time I got mad, who said, oh, this is so disrespectful. I don't think it's going to work. And this was my motivation. And so it started about 10 years ago, my willingness. And then when I found the big book study line by line in Austin, the PPJ meeting about 4 years ago, and it blew up the top of my house. I mean, I learned so much studying the big book line by line. And so I would say the greatest spurt of growth in my sobriety has been the last 4 years.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And next up, we've got Young. Young, would you like to come in with your question, please?
Yeah, thank you, Isaac. Hi, everyone. My name's Young. I'm a recovered addict. Thank you so much, Lynn. It's always wonderful to hear you bring the spirit with you. I always ask this question to someone who's been around as long as you have and still has that enthusiasm and that fire. First question, if I can just be indulgent in two. How have you kept that enthusiasm and fire? And the answer is almost the same, but I still want to hear how you'd answer it. Have you kept that enthusiasm? And also, have you always done a big book study since when you came in up to this moment? Thank you.
Great question. The big book study, I haven't heard about line by line until 4 years ago. And so in my area, I went to big book study always. I went to 12 and 12 study, but we just read it. And people would talk about their experience with it, not what it was telling us to do. And so it's just not the same thing at all to read it that way. And for the enthusiasm, it's because of my sponsees sponsoring these women. I just love each one has a Netflix series going on, and I'm always curious about the next episode. And I call it a spiritual diagnosis. As they talk to me, okay, where is the selfishness? Where is the dishonesty? Is there any fear? How can we solve this? Oh, okay, I got it. And then to be able to share that with them and to watch them grow. They have great experiences with their 6th and 7th step. And then online meetings. All the accents, all the different personalities, the different formats. So for me, it's studying, passing along the big book line by line, listening to my sponsees with their stories, and then coming to great online meetings.
Great questions. Thank you. Next up, we have Carla. Carla, would you like to come in with your question, please?
Okay, yes, Lean, thank you. Well, my question is a little complicated, I think, but I'll try to narrow it down. you know, it says at once do step 4. And I did it one time through right away, and we had the charts. And I did the names. Now, later in my sobriety, I had a new sponsor, and she said, you have to take one page, one blank page, and put one name on it. And you have to do all that first. You know, I think there's different ways people are doing step 4. That's my question. If you could just tell us the most successful way right from the big book, you know, I'm sure the details are going to help me with my sponsees. Thank you. If you could.
Yes, Carla. Yeah, there are so many great big book studies right now going on, and there are different formats. I'm not so concerned with the format, but the way that we do it now, which I learned from the Austin PPJ meeting, is not using check marks like self-esteem, yeah, security, yes, ambition, no. That's how we used to do it. But now it's, what is self-esteem? Well, my self-esteem is what I believe I am. And so the biggest issue we have with Werner in our marriage, I would say he criticizes me. He would say he's just sharing his opinion, and my feelings would be hurt. And that went on for a couple of years. And so once I put it down the way that we're doing it now, it was, I believe I'm inadequate. The problem is not the criticism. The problem is I believe I'm inadequate. And of course, if I believe I'm inadequate and not good enough, and someone wants to make a comment correcting what I'm doing, that nerve is hurting. The problem is that nerve in here. And that has the domino effect. So that alone is life-changing. And then what's my ambition? Ambition is how I want people, pride. Pride is how I want people to see me. Well, I wanted my husband to see me as competent so he wouldn't double check what I'm doing and criticize me. I wanted to shut him up rather than work my own program. And once I had an understanding that the third column is a big fat lie, I'm delusional, I'm sensitive, I want to blame it on him, then I create those stories. Personal relationship, husbands should trust what their wives are doing. Have you ever seeing that written anywhere? No, I made it up. And then I'm very flexible with that third column, depending on what the problem is. I can split it. I can shift it so easily. And so this is the way that we're doing it now. And then that fourth column, my selfishness, the self-righteousness. I was right, he shouldn't criticize me. The self-pity, oh, I can never do anything right. And then looking at it all with the delusion to think that I can convince him to change his personality to accommodate me. It's folly. And so that's how we're doing it now. And everybody, without exception, it's getting tremendous results. They just missed it, what that third column meant. If you want to, I can put in the chat a sample. Would you like that? And I'll do it in all humility. Okay, let me do that.
Great question. Thank you, Carla. We've got not loads of time left and about 4 hands up, and it'd be really nice to get everyone in. So if you could come in quickly with your question, that would be great. And next up, we have Andrew. Would you like to come in, please?
All right, Andrew, addict and alcoholic. Thanks very much, Lynn. I'd like to ask, when you had that pivotal moment when the lady changed your conception of a God of our own understanding, how did that affect the meaning of the rest of the program for you?
Oh, I mean, it put a big smile on my face, because what happened, Andrew, a lot of my prejudice was fear. I was afraid of what would happen to me, not only in this life, but later. in part for being a floozy, cheating, lying, stealing. And I saw that as a mean judge. And so that smile, oh, but I am loved. Oh, I'm not going to be punished. This is going to be okay. So once I knew that, I could get closer with the third step when I'm supposed to turn my will and my life over to this entity that's going to direct my life, not into those treacherous places, but in a place that's going to be good for me and all the people around me. So it was absolutely life-changing in order for me to move to the third step before we get to the fourth step. So to lose that fear of God was life transforming.
Great question. Thanks, Andrew. Oliver, would you like to come in with your question, please?
Thank you for such a captivating share. I love listening to it. Could you tell me exactly what your step 11 practice is like, what step 11 is like in your life? And if possible, could you let us know what that big book study is, or just a favorite big book study that we could get on? Because that's something that I'm looking for in my own recovery at the minute. So yeah, that's it.
Yes, Oliver, my 11th step in the morning. So it says to look at my calendar. I have it in my hand. Then we ask God to direct our thinking, that it be divorced from self-pity, selfish, and dishonest motive. So then I look, this is my calendar today. Then I look at each instance. If there is any dishonesty, selfishness, or fear in this, then when I get to that sponsee I will meet this afternoon, then I have a little tribulation. And so it says, we ask God to show us the way of patience, tolerance, kindness, and love. And if this unsuspected resource is already inside of me, I already have inside of me all the patience, tolerance, kindness, and love. It's already in here. It's more of a reminder. And so that can be demonstrated by this resource when I'm talking to my sponsee. And then it says also, we ask God to show us throughout the day what our next step is to be. And so just in case I miss something, by the time I meet with her, God will give me what I need to take care of this situation. And it takes care of what's not on my calendar. This is Lynn's plan over here. Maybe there'll be something that I have not predicted. But in the morning, I go get my reassurance that should there be something, Oliver, I have not planned, that maybe that scares me a little bit, that God will give me whatever I need, because He is the employer. I'm the employee. So if your job at work, Oliver, is to answer the phone, of course, your employer will train you how he wants you to answer the phone. It's going to give you a phone, a desk, a computer, everything you need. It's the same thing with this higher power inside of me. He has responsibilities for me to do today. And of course, he's going to make sure I know what I'm supposed to do. And he's going to give me everything I need. Otherwise, he's going to ask somebody else to do it, not me. So what is on my plate? I have everything that I need to be of service to that person. And one of the greatest promise you ask in the big book is God takes care of all our needs. Not my husband, not my sponsor. God takes care of all my needs. If there are no free lunches in the big book, always have to work for it. If we stay close to Him, one more time, it's me being close. I have to make the first step and perform His work well. So today, I only have to do that well. Not perfect, not better than anybody, not better than what I did last time, just well, in order for God to take care of all my needs. Okay?
Thank you for your
and then
question,
the
Oliver.
11th step, we ask Him for a vision of His will for us in all our activities. So the Unshakable Foundation, that's in the 10 step in the 12 and 12, that self-examination, prayer, and meditation are highly beneficial. But when they are logically interwoven, they result in an unshakable foundation. And I thought, how do I interweave this? I do it in the morning. So when I look at my calendar and I look if there is dishonesty in this or fear, I'm taking my inventory. That's my self-examination. And then every time I ask for God to show me, to give me in the morning, that's a prayer. And if I'm asking Him for a vision, him, her, it, for a vision of their will, as I wait for the vision, it's a meditation. I'm waiting for an intuition or a decision. That's a meditation. It's not about going for 20 minutes. Guided meditation, music meditation, metta meditation. I've done all of that and I enjoy it, but it's not the purpose of the 11th step in the perimeter of our program, which is to pray for knowledge of His will and the power to carry it out. It's not about trying to calm my mind, although in the 11th step in the 12 and 12, he talks about creating this ambiance, which is wonderful. But I have to be asking for the knowledge of His will for me today. Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Oliver. It's now 9 o'clock UK time, which brings us to the end of question time, but not quite the end of the meeting.